A few months ago, I made a video called AEW is better than WWE. And back then, I did think that. It's one of the videos I get the most comments on, people hating on it, people liking it, people hating the idea of AEW is better than WWE, people agreeing with it. Now I'm making this video because my mind has completely changed on AEW and the product itself, and these are the problems with AEW. One of the main issues AEW currently has is their pointless ranking system. That was one of the biggest things they brought up when they first started the company, was that the ranking system was going to be a real thing. They were going to keep track of it. It was going to mean something, make it feel like a real sport, and it never really did. None of the rankings ever made any sense. Some people accumulated all their wins on AEW Dark, which nobody watches, and now they're doing it on AEW Dark Elevation as well. It's so bad that even Britt Baker herself on TV is now currently making fun of the ranking system. So they're poking fun at themselves, so at least give them credit for that. But again, there's a time when Red Velvet randomly was the #1 contender for the Women's Championship. Right now, Adam Hangman Page is the current #1 contender, and he seems like he will not get a shot in a long time for Kenny Omega's championship. The ranking system has been one of the worst things they've made because they've refused to make it feel like it has absolutely any importance whatsoever when it comes to who faces who and who wins what. The fact that you have a bunch of random matches on Dark, like WWE main event, and you have those matches counting towards the ranking, and those matches that are won there have guys catapulted to the #1 contendership, and then they don't even get a title shot. Then they have teams that are ranked #1, tag team. You have SCU right now currently ranked #1. How? I don't know, because you don't really see them on television whatsoever, unless they're getting all their wins on Dark. Now have to face an eliminator tag match, even though they're the #1 contenders. So what is the point of the ranking system? It seems like just a big joke. Obviously, Britt Baker's making a ton of fun of it. She hasn't wrestled a match on AEW Dynamite, I believe, since her unsanctioned match, which doesn't even count towards the rankings, against Thunder Rosa, that bust-ass match that they had. She's gotten #1 contendership just by winning matches on Dark and Dark Elevation. AEW needs to get rid of this ranking system, or just not mention it whatsoever and kind of let it fade away, or actually make it mean something and make it make sense. The next problem AEW has is that they just drop storylines. How many times have we seen a guy enter the company, immediately get a big match, lose that big match, and then disappear? We saw it with the likes of Lance Archer when he first got there, lost to Cody Rhodes, disappeared, then lost to Jon Moxley randomly, AEW World Championship, then disappeared again. You saw it with Brian Cage. He came in, won the Casino Battle Royal, faced Jon Moxley, lost, disappeared. The days when Team Taz, they gave him the FTW Championship, which means absolutely nothing, and now he's just meandering around. Brody Lee, the late Brody Lee as well, comes in, gets AEW Championship spot, loses, disappears for a little bit. But we've seen it time in and time out. Storylines that continue and they just get dropped. They just disappear. They fall off the face of the planet. I mean, let's talk about the one that they had with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks created an issue with the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, and Kenny Omega. They had beef with them. They went to Kenny Omega's house, beat up Don Callis, and then eventually you have them being helped out by the Good Brothers before their matchup against MJF and Chris Jericho. And now they turn heel. Now they're with the Elite. Now that's a whole thing now. The feud that Penta started with Cody Rhodes, talked about his family, had one match. Now it's over. Cody Rhodes now feuding with QT Marshall after that, and Penta's now with Orange Cassidy. No payoff. They've continuously just dropped storylines. People have disappeared from the show. Look at Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky's another one. Been on and off the show. Won the big brass ring at the last pay-per-view Revolution, got the title match against Darby Allin that following week, lost, disappeared, and now he's in some random tag team with Ethan Page. Remember the chairman of AEW, Sean Spears, comes in, hits Cody with a chair. That storyline goes absolutely nowhere. The Cody MJF storyline ended rather quickly. Nothing much came of it after that. The Matt Hardy stuff, he shows up, broken Matt, supernatural, just drops it, goes back to regular Matt, now he's Big Money Matt. It's a continuation of just dropping storylines as they're moving on and expecting us not to notice that it's happening. Again with Sean Spears, he disappeared off of television after the chairman stuff, gets a loaded glove from Tully Blanchard, never really uses it, is a completely dropped storyline, and he disappears again. Remember Scorpio Sky and Sean Spears? They're supposed to have a little bit of a feud. They ran into each other backstage, had some issues, nothing ever came of it. So this brings me to my next problem with AEW. The roster is just too big. They've signed a lot of guys. Miro, Christian Cage, Brian Cage, Ethan Page, Sting. There's a lot of guys on this roster. It's extremely bloated. They don't have enough TV time for them. They need a second show to get all these guys on there because, again, they drop storylines, guys disappear. Pac and Phoenix have disappeared. Again, there's just a bunch of guys that continuously just disappear off the face of the planet. Shawn Spears is another habitual disappearer. He's the disappearing man of AEW. Until now, getting to the pinnacle, he's been the guy who came in with the big chair shot, the chairman of AEW, disappeared, came back, disappeared again, had a small beef with Scorpio Sky that was completely dropped, disappeared again. You have just entirely too many guys on this roster, a bloated roster with not enough TV time. That's why storylines get dropped. Guys get pushed for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They disappear for 6. It's a vicious cycle that they have going on right now in AEW. They need another show. Nobody watches Dark. Nobody watches Dark Elevation to have a roster that justifies being that big. Now, you can talk as much as you want about WWE changing the show day of. Seems like AEW is doing the same type of thing. They're changing the show quickly day of. You remember the whole QT Marshall with the bunny and how that was causing a rift between the Nightmare family? That disappeared after Eddie Kingston decided to bring the bunny in with his group. And now QT Marshall finds another way to switch it up and change the story and do something different. Adding a guy like Christian Cage is just adding more bloat to the roster. Too many guys. Miro underutilized in AEW so far. He might go on a singles run. Who knows how long that will take. Maybe he'll go for the TNT Championship. I doubt he'll go after Kenny Omega. Kenny is on to bigger and better things, but the roster itself just too big. Not enough shows to showcase everybody on there. So again, guys disappear. You forget about guys on the roster that they even had them. Next problem with AEW is this whole Forbidden Door thing. AEW has had a partnership with Impact Wrestling for a few months now. It started, Kenny Omega won the AEW World Championship due to the help of Don Callis. He showed up on Impact the following week, and that was pretty much it. The Good Brothers showed up. They started issues with the Bucks. Then the Bucks have beef with them. Then they stop having beef with them. Then now they're friends again. Now they turn heel. Now they're all together. Now Kenny Omega wins all the titles, and it's nowhere to be seen on AEW television. Last week's was a pre-taped episode of AEW Dynamite. They didn't even splice in a clip of Kenny Omega defeating Rich Swann for those Impact Championships. The whole Forbidden Door thing hasn't worked out because it's been drawn out. Nothing much has happened whatsoever. Nobody from Impact has really shown up on AEW television other than the Good Brothers and I guess Don Callis. Some AEW superstars have shown up on Impact Wrestling, but it has never been promoted by AEW whatsoever, so you wouldn't even know it unless you were a fan of Impact Wrestling. They don't draw as many fans as AEW, so what do the AEW guys benefit from going to Impact? None whatsoever. They would maybe if AEW was to promote it on their channel so that you can go tune in and find whatever the hell channel Impact is on. They didn't even promote the pay-per-view for Rebellion where their own champion, Kenny Omega, the AEW champion, was taking on Rich Swann for a title versus title. They could have lost the AEW championship. That might have been more interesting. And maybe AEW would acknowledge Impact more if Kenny would have lost his title to Rich Swann. And they put together a tremendous matchup. But in the end, AEW doesn't give Impact the time of day. So what's the point of the partnership? Because Impact averages 130,000 some odd people a week. Great, fine and dandy. AEW hits 1 million. Which one should promote which one? AEW gets no promotion whatsoever from their guys being on Impact. AEW holds all the cards. They need to promote Impact so that Impact feels more important and everybody benefits. Even if it's a small benefit from AEW, at least the guys from AEW are going to watch the guys from AEW show up on Impact. Makes a ton more sense. One of the main reasons Forbidden Door thing was kind of a bust so far, at least, is because nobody from Impact came onto AEW to challenge Kenny Omega for that AEW championship. He directly went after winning the AEW championship, going to Impact, the Good Brothers being on Dynamite. He immediately went to a feud with Jon Moxley for that AEW championship, had the death match with a disastrous finish, and it's continuing to go on. So now this man has all 3 titles and will continue to feud against Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston rather than somebody from Impact. The title he is currently carrying from a different company, nobody will come from that show to come challenge him on his own turf in AEW. Makes no sense. Doesn't help anybody in the end. The next problem with AEW is they have too many cooks in the kitchen. It seems like a lot of guys are just getting too much leeway out there to do what they want to do. They have a lot of guys that probably aren't TV ready. Some of them are kind of just running through the things, and it seems like Tony Khan, it's not the same as Vince McMahon. The buck seems to not stop with him. He's letting the talent go out and do their own thing, which is good. Gives them creative freedom, makes the show more genuine. It's one of the things I like that AEW had better than WWE. but you see some things nowadays on the show which aren't that good. The whole Kip Sabian Miro stuff was corny with the whole gaming thing. Nobody liked it. You had the death match, an idea that really didn't need to happen. They decided to do it, and you saw the way it ended. They have their issues, talent having too much leeway on the show to do whatever they feel like doing. The next problem with AEW is faction mania. There's a faction involved in every single segment of the show. I know you want to go back to the Attitude Era where they had factions here and there. It wasn't the entire show was a faction. There's a faction all over the place. The only ones that really anybody cares about is the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle. The Nightmare Family, nobody cares about. Nobody even knows is part of that group. There's a bunch of random guys that pop out of nowhere. Now you have the Factory with QT Marshall turning heel. He's got his guys on there. Nobody really cares. The Elite is a group. It's fine. It is what it is. We've seen it before. And you have the Dark Order. Since losing Brody Lee, they've kind of been stuck in the middle. You have now Matt Hardy has his own group. You have Team Taz, who's one of the more useless groups there. They don't really do much. They haven't done much of anything. Really had the street fight against Sting and Darby Allin, lost. Now they have nothing else to do. So it's faction mania all over AEW. They need to cut back on these factions. I know they want to have 1 million people show up on the television program because they don't have enough time to showcase everybody. One of the problems they do have, but factions aren't the way to go about it. There's too many guys there. Makes you care less about everybody involved because there's just too many guys involved in every single match. And then leads me to the next problem with AEW, too many tag team matches. I know they were the show that was going to be all about tag team wrestling. They were going to showcase tag team wrestling. Wonderful. Don't have so many tag team matches every single night. You have a bunch of random tag team matches all kind of meshed together with a bunch of big spots, and then it doesn't really work out because none of them really stand out from each other. They're kind of just there. And you get a bunch of random matches that go on, feuds that really aren't all that great that people care about, and you just have too much. AEW tends to start off now, a tag match in the beginning, tag match in the middle, and another tag match in between the middle and the main event. 6-man tags up the ass, 8-man tags, 10-man tags is too much of it. Factions, again, factions and too many tag team matches creates a blur and everything kind of meshes together. Nothing stands out really, and it's just too much. I know you want to get everybody in the show, but you can't. You need a second show or cut down your roster. To be honest with you, you might as well cut it down because you just have too many guys on the roster. And you have this new Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky tag team. It looks like Sting will be only wrestling tag team type matches. There's just too many tag teams on the show, too many tag team matches. I know you want to showcase tag team wrestling, but it's too much. It's overkill at this point. Then leads on to the next point. Next problem with AEW, the women's division. The division that they refuse to really showcase, that has almost no importance whatsoever. Hikaru Shida's been the champion forever. She's only 3-0. She only had 3 title defenses this entire year so far. She's the world champion, and none of her matches have felt really important whatsoever. When you have the 2 biggest stars in your division, Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, not even really being on Dynamite, to be honest, and having matches makes no sense whatsoever. You need to showcase your women's division similar to the way NXT does. Make it feel important. Give the title to Thunder Rosa or Britt Baker so they can carry the division on their back, because they will. You need to showcase the division more. Stop worrying so much about factions and tag teams. Showcase your women's division. Have a balanced show. The show is very unbalanced right now. The only thing I feel that's important on the show right now is the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle. They need to cut back on some of the stuff they're doing. Showcase the women more. Make the women more important in terms of having Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker carry the division, because they're the ones that have characters. They're the ones that have the charisma and everything else, all the whole package. It's ridiculous how they're not champions and Hikaru Shida still is. And she's never really doing much of anything important on the show. So those are the problems that AEW has currently. Hopefully they can come and fix some of these things. It's a lot to fix because I think it's hurt the show in recent months. It's really fallen off for the past 6, 7, 8 months. Pretty much ever since I made that last video, they've fallen off big time. There's done a lot of things like overexposing Orange Cassidy's character on television, having him show up way too much on TV with the whole Chris Jericho stuff. You overexpose the character that needs to be sparsed out and not used so much, because the whole thing around Orange Cassidy is that you're watching his match to see him be lazy and then eventually kick it into gear. But if he wrestles every single week, you get tired of it. You can't keep doing it over and over again, and that's what happened with Orange Cassidy. So it's a lot of problems they have. They got to fix all these things to get better. They'll hit 1 million. They'll hit 800,000, 900,000 viewers a week just because people are just trying to watch it because they like it. But they need to fix these problems for them to really push it to the next level and make the show more balanced, because right now it's totally unbalanced. But guys, that's the video I have for you guys today. That's the problem with AEW right now, currently, in my opinion. Make sure to drop a like on this video. Helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. Hit the chair in the corner before it hits you first. You subscribe to the channel, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.